Okay, good evening, and I'll call to order the June 15th, 2020 meeting of the Haywood County Board of Commissioners. And our first order of business will be our Pledge of Allegiance, and after that I'm going to ask our Pastor Josh Frazier to come forward for our invocation. So if everyone please stand for the pledge.
Let us pray. God in heaven, we thank you for another beautiful day, Lord, to be able to be good stewards of all the things that you have given to us. We ask that today you give us wisdom and guidance in all the decisions that are made. Lord, we thank you for all the blessings that you have given to us to be able to live in such a beautiful area, such a good country, Lord, and a great county here in Haywood, North Carolina. We pray that you would just bless us. Again, Lord, we pray that you would just continue to guide us in all that we do, and it's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Okay, thank you, Pastor Josh. Okay, our next order of business is public hearings, and we have a request for public hearing on July 20th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. in the historic courtroom of the Haywood County Courthouse. Will be a public hearing concerning an installment of a finance contract for the purpose of building a health and human services building at Haywood Community College for classrooms and labs for the nursing program, education program, and other human services education purposes, and two, to refinance an installment financing contract with the Bank of America, which was dated October 1st, 2020. So we have our finance director, Julie Davis, here to speak about that. And we also have Dr. Shelley White and Anthony Sutton, and I would ask them to come up and maybe say a few words about this. We kind of call it the nursing building, and we're looking forward to that. We have, as always, there's a nursing shortage in our nation and in our community, and so it's great that the community college is looking at doing this. So Julie, go ahead and let us know.
Doing the call for the public hearing, I did want to mention a couple of things about this. The Health and Human Services Building Project is approximately $7.3 million. It's being funded partially with a grant of $2.8 million from the state of North Carolina Connect NC bonds that were approved in 2015. And then the balance of about $4.5 to $5 million is going to be from an installment loan through the county that's going to be repaid. The debt service on an annual basis will be repaid from grant proceeds from the Haywood Healthcare Foundation. The loan amount is actually going to be $9.2 million. That's what we're having the public hearing on. And the $9.2 million is a combination of two things. There is a current community college loan out there that has collateral on the property. This new project is going to be built on the same property, so we're going to have the same collateral. So what we thought it would be best to do is to refinance this current loan. There's only 5 years left of it, and there's only about $4.2 million, just under $4.2 million left. This is the Crafts Building. You might remember the 11.1 Crafts Building we did about 10 years ago. There's about $4.2 million left on that, and then we're going to borrow between $4.5 and $5 million. That's how we got to the $9.2 million that we're having the public hearing on for this loan.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Dr. White.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie, and to Bryant for assisting us on this project, as well as the Haywood Healthcare Foundation. Haywood Community College is excited to embark on the construction of our new health building to expand, enhance, and modernize the students' experience while supplying critical health care professionals for our area. So the 16,000 square foot facility will double the space that we currently use for our nursing education program. It will expand access to simulation equipment, which particularly in these current times is very critical for students to have access to patient care activities. And it will increase our science lab capacity by including a 40-seat science lab, which can be used for biology, microbiology, chemistry, anatomy, and physiology classes. Our current labs are restricted to 25 students, so this really increases our capacity for being able to serve our students, all of our students in the sciences. It increases our capacity of large classroom spaces as well on campus, including a 50-seat classroom and an 80-seat lecture hall. The new facility will allow the college to increase our associate degree in nursing student body by increasing our capacity. It will also provide, as I mentioned, access to updated and expanded science lab for all of our nursing, pre-nursing, and CCP Career and College Promise students, and the ability to expand our new opportunities for allied health professions that we're not currently offering health and public service programs in the future. Some of those programs that we're currently looking at are expanding our nursing programs to include licensed practical nurse, which is a one-year nursing degree, as well as a paramedic degree, as that paramedic program is looking to become an associate's degree, and we're currently offering it through our continuing education program. The construction of the building is slated to begin in the fall of 2020, with the completion being about a year later in December of 2021. So we would expect to occupy the building in spring term of 2022. And we have a list of equipment needs that we're looking at. As I said, the simulation equipment, which is so critical for student access. We're very excited to be able to expand those opportunities for our students.
Great, yeah. We're looking forward to that too.
Thank you.
Okay. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you. The Healthcare Foundation is very excited to work with the county on this project. By the county doing the loan, it will enable us to keep our principal that we'll be able to use in the future for other items. So we'll be paying everything off of earnings that we get from our investments. The foundation has given over $14 million in health care for Haywood County citizens. And since August 2014, the foundation has supported mental health, substance abuse, free mammograms, base camp on the go, nutrition, AED, defibrillators for law enforcement vehicles, Town of Canton, Junaluska Elementary Schools, ARC of Haywood County, dental equipment and care, gas cards to cancer patients needing transportation assistance, Maple Leaf Adult Daycare Program, Be Well Program, portable ventilators and infusion pumps for Haywood EMS, which I think is on your agenda later as well, and Second Step Program for Clyde Elementary School, and also EKG machines for Blue Ridge Health. So we're very excited to work with the county, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, thank you. We appreciate y'all being here tonight. Okay, is there anybody? I'll entertain a motion that we approve the request for a public hearing that I just mentioned.
So moved.
Second. Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. That'll be on our next meeting, July 20th. And just for a FYI, we only have one meeting in July, so traditionally that's what we do because their business slows down after the budget's passed. So our next meeting will be July 20th in this room. So, and that's when we'll have that public hearing. So our next order of business is public hearings, and the first public hearing is for the sale of the historic County Hospital located at 1230 North Main Street, Waynesville, North Carolina, in the amount of $225,000 to Landmark Asset Services, Inc. for the purpose of developing an affordable housing for persons to low to moderate income per North Carolina General Statute 153A 378 and North Carolina General Statute 160A 267. We have our program administrator, David Francis, here to talk about that. David?
Good evening, Commissioners.
Welcome.
Hope everybody's doing well this evening.
Evening.
Again, to reiterate what the chairman has said, that the historic hospital has had an option that we did in 2019 for the sale of the hospital, and that was contingent on Landmark receiving the North Carolina Housing Finance grants towards affordable housing, which they did. At that time, they've now secured all of the funding to pull off the nearly $8 million renovation project. So it is moving along. We anticipate the closing in mid-August. They will assume the building at that time, and they will start work on there's three sections of the building, 1927, 1952, and 1956. So they'll start working on the 56 and the 52 portions and start that renovation project right away. They would hope to have people start renting in December of 2021. Again, this is a sale for $225,000. When we were going through all these different scenarios, we also did vetting this out about how much it would cost if we had to knock the hospital down. And that was nearly $1 million to have to demo that. So it was a double win. We were able to reuse and recycle the building. We're very thankful for the town of Waynesville was partners in getting this done when they rechanged the classification out there for that neighborhood to readaptive and reuse. So that made this happen. It put us in a smaller pool. When we went to, there was 232 applicants for those grant funds in 2019. So we feel really fortunate that we're going to be able to proceed with this. So, any questions before you open the public hearing?
We've had tried 4 times to get this approved, and the state approved it at this time. So this will be great for seniors and veterans. I think they're going to target those landmarks.
Yeah, that's the preference. You're correct, Mr. Chairman. Is seniors, elderly, and preference to veterans the first go. Right.
Okay, thanks, David. Okay, so we'll have 3 public comment periods in this meeting. The first will be this public comment would be a public comment on the the sale of the historic courthouse to Landmark Asset Services in the amount of $225,000. So, and then after that, we'll have a public comment session for the next public hearing, and then we'll have our regular public comment session, which I think is what most of y'all signed up for. So, at this time, would anybody like to to speak to the issue of the sale of the historic county hospital? And I might have said courthouse, I meant hospital. Anyone like to speak to that? Okay, all right. Seeing no one, I'll close that public hearing, and we'll move on to the request to amend Chapter 91 of the Animal Services Ordinance, paragraph inherently dangerous wild animals, per petition received requesting the capuchin or capuchin monkeys be exempt and or excluded from the ordinance and deleted from the animals regulated by the ordinance. And I'm going to turn this part of our public hearing over to our attorney, Frank Queen. Frank.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Board of Commissioners has received a written petition by Attorney George Heiler on behalf of Cynthia Gregory to amend the ordinance of the county. Let me give a little tiny bit of background about this, and then we'll go into the rest of the public hearing. Haywood County has an ordinance that regulates the possession of I want to get the exact language of it. That, among other things, regulates inherently dangerous wild animals. This is our Chapter 91 of our county ordinances. Inherently dangerous wild animals are defined in the ordinance, and they are prohibited by another section of the ordinance. The Section 91.09. It's unlawful for any owner or other person to possess or harbor an inherently dangerous wild animal within the county. There's an exemption for bona fide traveling circuses licensed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture are exempt from this section. And that's about all the ordinance says. On behalf of Ms. Gregory, Attorney George Heiler has presented a proposal and to deal with and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, capuchin monkey, and I'm going to, the proposal I have for the board to receive or to conduct this public hearing is to first allow Mr. Heiler to present his information and his request, and then I would point out to the board that we have included in the board packet a written report from our director of and let me get his title right. From Howard Martin, the Animal Services Director of the Department of Animal Services. He's analyzed the requested petition and the language change, and he's provided a written report to the commissioners beforehand. So I'm going to ask Mr. Heiler to present his presentation. The Animal Services Director, Howard Martin, is here and can answer questions about his report. I don't think it's necessary to go over his report again because it's in writing and you've already seen it. But if you have questions, you can have it. George Heiler is a longtime distinguished attorney here from Asheville who does a lot of business here in Haywood County too. And I'll just ask him to, he's at the podium now, we'll ask him to proceed, and then we'll hear other evidence from that or other. This is not an evidentiary hearing. This is a public hearing to gather information. And no one's under oath. The purpose of the public hearing is to present information to you, to allow you to ask questions, deliberate amongst yourselves, and talk out loud about issues or things that you find about this. And at the end of it, you have an option. You can proceed to, we'll adjourn the hearing will be concluded, and then you can undertake further action as you please. Under your rules your ordinary rules of operation, a proposed ordinance would not be voted on until the next meeting. That's the ordinary rules of your proceedings, and that would be July 20 because you don't have a meeting in the first part of July. So with that understanding, this is a public hearing to gather information. You're free to ask questions of witnesses or discuss things amongst yourself as you please. I'm going to start it off with Mr. Heiler. Thank you, George.
Members of the board, first of all, when he uses the term distinguished, that means that I'm old. And that I've been here a long time, and so I appreciate that distinction. Let me say that
If you would, just speak into the mic so we can hear you good.
You want me to take this off? Okay.
Sure, yeah.
I'm going to say that again because it's the first time anybody said anything nice about me in a long time. They said I was distinguished, and I want that to be on the record. For the board, this arose, as you can see, from the fact that police officers were at this home for something not involving any of these animals, found the animals there, and took into their possession this capuchin monkey, which is a little monkey about this big. And we actually have a picture of one, which was on some of the news media. But when this came about, I started looking, and the first thing I looked at was the ordinances across the state, and there are 42 counties that have no restriction on inherent exotic or inherently dangerous animals. And there are 13 others that have a reference to exotic, inherently dangerous animals, but it says applies only to dog, cat, hybrids, and bears, whatever that means. So of the counties in North Carolina, 55 of them have no ordinance or have an ordinance that applies apparently to bears and other animals. So first of all, you have this provision of your ordinance that says inherently dangerous wild animals. In the definition of that, it simply says non-human primates. So basically, this ordinance disallows any monkey or primate. And to me, when I looked at that, I thought this was completely overly broad and something that might be attacked in the courts. But reading on down through the statute, it says a provision that you could go before the board and seek exemptions rather than to get into a lawsuit. I am old and I have been in a lot of lawsuits, so I don't want any more lawsuits, but I said I'm going to come before the board and see if they look at this, that they wouldn't make an exemption for this one type of animal. In doing that petition, I served on the board an affidavit, which I think was provided to all of you, a package. And this is an affidavit of Joni Swanson. Not only was it her affidavit, but her USDA Department of Agriculture certification was attached. And she swore under oath, which I thought was important in this proceeding, but she said she's been working with exotic and other animals for 33 years. I'm familiar with animal control and health care issues in regard to animals generally and in regard to primates specifically. She is the lady who sold this particular capuchin monkey to Ms. Gregory. And in her affidavit, she states capuchin monkeys will not grow over a foot tall and will maintain a weight of under 10 pounds. This primate is more human and very gentle with other animals as well with people. Capuchins will not be fully grown until they're 7 years old. They carry no diseases, nor do they need rabies shots as they are non-human primates. And she went on to tell me, and I put this in the affidavit, capuchin monkeys are the monkeys that organ grinders have used for over 400 years in entertaining people. They are, they like people, they get along well with people, and I don't think there's any reason that they would qualify as an exotic or dangerous animal, nor one that needs to be regulated. I think that to, you know, like I said, rather than go to court and attack this ordinance for being overly broad and not defining it, we decided to come before the board and see if you all would consider making an exception for this animal based on the showing today. When I spoke with Mr. Queen when I got here, he gave me this Department of Animal Services report by Mr. Martin, which was dated May 28th, but I just saw it 10 minutes ago. So I'm not totally prepared to look at it, but I do know from some of the things I reached out and talked to people, I believe that evidence could be brought from persons here in the state of North Carolina that will confirm what Ms. Swanson said. I do also want to say that, because I noticed in this report it didn't say who told her what, but I talked to Ms. Swanson and she said, well, I'm the one that told her that most states or counties don't have ordinances to govern this. So Ms. Gregory was under the understanding that this wasn't a violation of any ordinance when she bought this monkey, nor to keep it or raise it. And so she wasn't doing anything wrong. And again, it's a pretty, as I told you, there are 56 counties or whatever the total is that don't have any regulation at all. I didn't go to look at to the 40, whatever that is, 44 that would have ordinance to see what their definition is. But in my opinion, I think to say that every non-human primate is barred as an exotic and dangerous animal is just not going to pass muster. But I think the way to solve this is, again, is to just say, well, based on this evidence and this set of facts, that we're going to say this particular, based on the showing we've had, that this particular monkey ought to be exempted from the statute.
Are there questions for Mr. Hyler from the board?
Am I correct in understanding that she went to Florida and bought this monkey? This Ms. Swanson you referenced, she's licensed in the state of Florida?
She is, and I attached that licensure to the affidavit.
In the state of Florida, do they require, is there no requirement when they sell a primate to someone that they have to have some type of training or anything, to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge, and I've talked to Ms. Swanson several times on the phone in preparing her affidavit, and I can only tell you that my feeling about that was no, that they allow it. And again, she indicated this particular animal is just not deemed to be threatening and dangerous, and so it'd be like selling a dog at by a breeder, is the way she kind of said it. But there is licensure to raise them and to keep them, and that's why she's federally licensed and has been for 30 years.
And Ms. Swanson was the seller.
Yes.
How long, who's the petitioner in this matter?
Cynthia Gregory.
How long has Ms. Gregory had this animal before it was confiscated?
I believe that they bought it in December, I think.
He says November, I think.
November, yes.
Of 19.
November or December.
And is it just Cynthia Gregory? You just said they bought it. Is it someone else that's also?
Cynthia Gregory, I'm sorry.
Just
She bought
Cynthia.
it. She bought it, sorry.
Do you know how old the monkey is?
Not exactly, but I think about 6 months now. I think it was fairly young. I think they have to keep it to a certain point before they sell it. I didn't ask her what that was, but it has to be a certain age. But they want to sell them young because they bond with the family. They want the monkey will bond with human contact. This is a very social monkey, and it bonds with humans.
How big do they get, did you say? How big does the monkey get?
According to this affidavit, she says they will not grow over a foot tall and will maintain a weight under 10 pounds. So it gets about that big and doesn't weigh more than 10 pounds.
There'll be opportunity for people to speak here in just a minute. Yeah.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Heiler?
I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Heiler. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does the board, you have the report of Mr. Martin, your Animal Services Director. Does the board have questions for him or wish to hear from him beyond the content of his report? Hearing no further questions about Mr. Martin's report, we will ask if there are any persons in the audience who wish to be heard on the public hearing on this proposed change to the ordinance.
Okay, we've got two, so you want to come up, Ms. Colton? We'll let her, then Miss the lady in the back. Okay. And so in public comment, you have 3 minutes. And Tracy, we've got our timer fixed, so there's a green, yellow, and red button. And so when the yellow's there, you've got about 30 seconds left. And then when the red comes on, that means your 3 minutes is up. And I'd appreciate it if you would conclude your comments at that point. So welcome, Ms. Coltman.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. And I'm probably going to be over 3 minutes. So if so, I have put this down in writing so you can read the rest of it. As the animal welfare representative on the original Haywood County Animal Control Ordinance, I helped to develop the basic ordinance that is still in operation today. As a member of Haywood County Humane Society and a founder of Haywood Animal Welfare Association, I worked through the 1990s with veterinarians, concerned citizens, and commissioners on every adjustment and upgrade to the ordinance, including the vicious and dangerous animals portion of the ordinance, as well as the inherently dangerous wild animal clause of the ordinance that forbids the keeping of wild animals as pets. The thinking of experts regarding the keeping of wild animals as pets or service animals has not changed since that time. Here are the reasons from the monkey standpoint that it's bad for the monkey. Monkeys in the pet industry are taken from their mothers just after birth. The mothers are harmed and may be killed during the process. Babies develop abnormal, lifelong negative compensating behaviors in order to adjust to this initial trauma. Veterinarians and wildlife animal specialists concur that capuchin and other monkeys prefer to be with their own kind. The process involved with the pet trade that tears them from their species is unnecessary, cruel, and emotionally taxing to all animals involved. Allowing them to be kept as pets feeds this inhumane industry. Animal specialists agree that the process of forcing a wild animal into a human setting creates a mentally disturbed animal that typically exhibits destructive and self-destructive behaviors. Almost all owners eventually do one of the following to the animal: chain it, put in a small confined space, remove its teeth or nails in order to render it unable to scratch or bite, abandon it, turn it over to an animal rescue sanctuary or zoo, release it to a laboratory where the animal may undergo painful experimentation, or in some cases, the owner may actually kill the animal. All of these have happened. Here are the reasons that keeping a capuchin monkey in a household setting is bad from the caretaker's perspective. Monkeys carry a number of extremely dangerous and potentially lethal viruses that may be contracted by human beings: yellow fever, monkeypox, Ebola, Marburg virus, herpes B, simian immunodeficiency virus, which is the primary form of HIV, and viral hepatitis. Capuchin monkeys, when sexually mature, which is, I've forgotten, it's I think around 18 months or a little later, develop negative behaviors such as urinating on their hands, aggressiveness that includes biting and scratching, and being destructive of furnishings to the point of destroying entire households. That's happened. Here are the statements of experts against keeping capuchin and other monkeys or wild animals in a home setting. A lady, April Truitt, Executive Director of the Primate Rescue Center, says that these animals do not make good pets because they are wild animals that cannot be treated like a dog, a cat, hamster, guinea pig, or other such common pet. The Americans with Disabilities Act deems capuchin monkeys as not suitable service animals because they are a danger to both owners and the public due to disease transmission and aggression. The American, okay. You can see my time is up, but you can see that all the organizations, veterinary, animal welfare, wildlife, that are opposed to keeping these animals or pet. I'm going to finish by saying years ago, the commissioners led by Edwin Russell were faced with a potentially dangerous traveling backyard zoo, and they said no by inserting this restriction into the ordinance. They were wise. I encourage you, commissioners, today to maintain the wisdom established by the thoughtful decision of previous commissioners. Maintaining the ordinance that forbids the keeping of wild animals will be the best option for the animals, the best decision for people, the best consideration for society. If you must, please do a risk-benefit analysis. You will see there's a great deal of risk and actually no benefit. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Ms. Coltman, and then the lady in the back. If you would state your name and maybe where you're from. Yeah, come up to the podium. And do speak directly into the mic so everybody can hear you. We have a sound problem in here, as some of you may know. But welcome.
Thank you. And I'm going to be speaking later, but I just have personal experience with that particular monkey that I wanted to share. My name is Nicole Messia. I am a farm owner, and I have an animal rescue owner, and I have experience in the human side of medicine and the animal side of medicine. And we had a lot of experience working with this particular monkey. And I agree that you do not want to be poaching or trying to get animals away from their mothers to go into this trade. However, they get very bonded with their owners, and it's more traumatic if they've been born in captivity and been with an owner to then try to remove them. I have babysat, I have house sat, I have vet sat with these monkeys, and when they are with a person, they are very non-aggressive in my experience. So I just wanted to share that with you, just trying to reduce the traumatic nature if that is with somebody. I'm with an animal rescue, and I know the dangers of taking babies away from their mothers and all of that, but I just wanted to share my personal experience, not aggressive, and they get very bonded. They're very human-like, and so that's very important for them. And I just try to always reduce trauma wherever I can. Thank you.
Are there other persons who wish to be heard in the public hearing?
Lady right here to your left.
And I meant to tell you too, we have some Clorox wipes up here. If you'd like to wipe down the microphone or any part of the podium, you're welcome to do that with the Clorox wipes that are there.
My name is Nikki Revis. I hadn't planned on speaking here today. I don't live in Haywood County, but I was called to maybe add some assistance to the person that is filing the petition. I spent 33 years in the Air Force, and as a child, I always loved monkeys. And in my downtime in different countries, I would work with veterinarians, rescue areas where they were taking anywhere from chimpanzees, capuchins, marmosets, any kind of monkey that needed to be rehabilitated because we're literally running them out of the wild. They have nowhere to go. And as a youngster, or before I joined the Air Force, I was a hippie that was protesting at UCLA against monkeys being taken and used as medical devices. Their eyes being taken out, their fingers being cut off, you name it, they've had it done to them. I wanted to make a correction on monkeys. Since the 1970s, 1970 law was put into effect that you couldn't just bring wild monkeys into the United States, have not had an opportunity to get diseases unless they've gotten them from humans. They are inoculated for measles, rabies, tetanus, you name it, the list is long and it's very expensive. But they do become attached to their owners, and taking them away from their owners is as detrimental to them as it is. It's as bad as losing your own child, especially if you've never had children, because that's how close your relationship is with these people and the monkeys. Any monkey that is below an ape or chimpanzee size is probably not going to be able to do any more damage to a human being than a toy poodle. Their mouths are very small. They don't have the pressure for the bite. And if you're going to consider changing this ordinance, if you would take a look at, please, any monkey classification that is under the size of an ape, they're not dangerous to humans. Unless a human comes in contact with them, the owners have to be extremely protective over these monkeys, because all it takes is someone coming in with COVID-19 and it could be all over. Someone comes in and they've got any disease that's transmittable to a human being, because there's the DNA between these little guys and humans is so minute. And I know it doesn't look that way. My dad was really hairy, but it wasn't that hairy. But technically speaking, they understand your language. They understand what you say to them. They're extremely, extremely smart animals. And where a dog will go after you, these monkeys will go to the highest place they can to get away from you, to keep from getting hurt. They're not going to run and attack you. I've got a 130-pound Weimaraner that I would be much more afraid of hurting someone than one of my friends that's in Tennessee with her 3 monkeys. I just wanted to speak to the fact that they're not going to pass on all of these diseases, and they're not. And capuchins are normally top out at about 8 pounds. They reach sexual maturity or start into sexual maturity around the age of 4. By the age of 8, they're normally there. I know people, and in Florida, you have to have a license in Florida, and you guys may want to consider doing this too. Florida requires you have a USDA license. Is my time up? Sure it is. In Florida, you have to have a license to own one. And there are inspectors that come out, they inspect the food. You have to socialize them with other monkeys. You have to have a certain size cage. They have to get so much vitamin D in the sun. The list is long, but it's doable. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Would anyone else like to speak? Oh, I'm sorry, Frank. Would anyone else like to speak to this issue?
Hearing no other comments, we'll close the public hearing.
Okay. We'll move on to our regular public comment session, and I have several people signed up to speak. And so I'm just going to go through these in the order that I have them. And our first person to sign up to speak is Jean Paris. Welcome, Ms. Paris.
Thank you, and it is my pleasure to be here. And since I complained about this, I better wipe it off.
Okay. We won't count that against you.
I came here to tell you that I am with Drugs in Our Midst. I'm the person who started Drugs in Our Midst, but I am partnered with the harm reduction and with Healthy Haywood. And we have lots of people who are working, lots of organizations who are working to keep these people sheltered. And we believe in that all people need help. And all lives matter. We're not about black people or white people, Russians, Latinos, everybody is somebody special, and somebody special to somebody. And when you make fun of or ridicule or despise the homeless, their mother, their daddy, their brother, their sister, their children, somebody out there loves them, and God loves them. One of the things that I've heard a lot about the homeless people is that they always stink. Well, you're going to see some of these homeless people tonight, and they're squeaky clean. You know why they're squeaky clean? They have access to showers at the Scottish Inn. And they are loving being treated like humans. And but they're going to get brought back to Waynesville, and then everybody's going to be kicking them around again and calling them scum of the earth when they're in downtown Waynesville. We've got to keep them in a shelter. And we're asking you for money to help us keep them in a shelter, for tolerance to help us keep them in shelter. And you shouldn't have anybody down in Frog Level complaining. And they should be happy. And I'd like to see some of those people donate some money, because they're the people that got these people out of Frog Level. And I want to remind you that I don't know any towns or cities, especially the cities, that don't have homeless people. Homeless people are just a part of our country. And we as people are Christian people that believe that what the Bible says, love thy neighbor, what the Bible says that we need to take care of these people. There are always people that need taken care of in every city in the United States. And they have huge crowds of homeless people. And it is sometimes difficult. It's difficult for us right now to keep them in a shelter because we're running out of money. And so we would like to have a part that we feel like we're entitled to from that $1.26 million that is in the hands of Haywood County. And that means you and that means our county manager. And that money, according to the governor, on step 5, says that the unsheltered is entitled to some of the money. And so we are agreeing. Thank you, and I'll move on to the next person.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Paris. Okay, Ms. Colton, you were signed up to speak. Have you already? Okay, thank you. Okay, our next person to sign up to speak is Lauren Wood. Welcome, Lauren.
Good evening. My name is Lauren Wood. I live and work in Waynesville. Until last month, I worked at Health and Human Services, where I served the Public Health Division in countless ways, including securing hundreds of thousands of grant dollars for harm reduction, diabetes prevention, food security, and emergency sheltering. I resigned from the county in May, in part to raise my child during child care closures, and in part due to my difficult experience related to grant writing for emergency sheltering during COVID-19. In light of the WNC Bridge Foundation grant on the agenda tonight, a grant which I originally applied for, but which became the final straw in my tenure with the county, I feel I must speak out. After public health leaders identified the homeless as a vulnerable group during COVID-19, HHSA hosted an interagency meeting on April 6th to discuss their needs. Many services, including portable toilets, showers, meals, behavioral health care, and treatment, had already been arranged by community partners. But shelter was the major gap inhibiting folks from staying home and staying safe, and a hotel was recommended as the ideal plan. Over the next week, as community partners secured a willing hotel owner, I sought clarification on the county's role in funding emergency sheltering. Our HHSA director requested that I seek and apply for outside grants to fund sheltering, and I proceeded to apply for a $10,000 grant from the Bridge Foundation, requested a $12,000 reallocation from a Pisgah Health Foundation grant I'd already written, requested that unused funds in our harm reduction grant be reallocated, coordinated with the Open Door to apply for a $10,000 grant for which government agencies were ineligible. I kept my leadership informed of my efforts, and these efforts could have yielded $37,000 without any county spending or FEMA applications. However, the next day, I received an email from our director directing me and others to stop the work he had requested we perform with no justification. I also learned that the work I had done, my grant-seeking efforts had been undone, and that he had contacted the Bridge Foundation to retract the application I'd submitted. I emailed him to express my earnest concern that my efforts and time had been wasted, my relationship with funders affected, and vulnerable community members still out on the streets, but I never received the dignity of a reply. I'm almost done. My main regret in departing the county is that I cannot use my skills to help it be the force for good that it should be. I'd like accountability from county leadership as it pertains to my experience, but I'm much more concerned with my fellow county residents. On top of those already homeless, the economic disruption and the end of eviction freezes looming, this county will see a dramatic increase in homelessness that will be impossible to ignore. I request that this board engage county and municipal staff and community partners ASAP to prepare for and appropriately address this issue, including applying for FEMA and other funding and investing in evidence-based long-term strategies that work. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Lauren. Our next speaker is Peggy Hanna. Welcome.
My name is Peggy Hanna. I live at 268 Hemlock Street in Waynesville. We have a group that's called Saving Haywood. We're not here to be confrontational. We are asking for the county to please listen to us and give us a way forward if you have one. The first thing I want to address is please do not lease or allow any more nonprofits on county property until there has been an extended hearing period on it to where the public can weigh in and know exactly what's going on. Second thing I want to address is the allocation of funds to any nonprofit. I'm asking every one of you that is elected officials, can you be assured that there is a follow-up in place? Or are we just giving the funds and we're going to hope that something different is at the end? Rainbow's not always touching the ground. Just because we have funds that is available, I'm asking you, let's not reallocate them until we know that there is something definite at the end of that. If we allocate funds, please ask that we have something moving on to the next step instead of just another time of handing out funds. I went on the Harm Reduction Coalition website today, and according to their website, harm reduction is a set of practical strategies that reduce negative consequences of drug use, incorporating a spectrum of strategies from safer use to managed use to abstinence. The Needle program supposedly offers counseling services and health care screenings to the intravenous drug users who are returning their needles. I'm speaking here tonight because a lot of us believe that by giving clean needles to the intravenous drug users, that is directly encouraging and promoting the use of illegal drugs. We also feel that that hinders our law enforcement. It increases the crime rates and the incidences of dirty syringes improperly disposed of, especially inside the city limits. On my street, at the county parks, go down Main Street, you'll find them everywhere. We feel that giving patients clean needles is simply placing a bandage on the wound. Whether the belief is that it is a brain disease or a choice, the addict himself must take steps to control and stop the addiction services. The responsibility should not fall all on someone else. We're asking that y'all please take some proactive steps. We want to help them, but we need help too. Any questions? Well, that's what we're coming in front of them for, is to help us come up with a way that we can help instead of just constantly giving.
Okay,
We need
we're
to
not going
find
to go back
some
and
way
forth.
to have a goal in mind. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Peggy.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you for coming tonight. Rita Burnett is our next speaker. Okay, welcome.
This is my first time speaking in public. I'm not very good at it. Hello, my name is Rita Burnett. I have been a resident of Waynesville for 20 years. In that 20 years, I have seen many changes. I used to walk all over town and felt very safe in doing so. My daily walks always was through town and back through Frog Level, as I live close to that area. My grandson was 10. He would go on those walks with me, and he'd pick up those little things to put in jars, and he still has that jar at 17. For a couple of years now, I don't take that walk because it is no longer safe for me to do so, especially through Frog Level. The drug users have infested that area, pretty much took it over. They have defaced property, broke into businesses, and trashed the Frog Level area. They are coming in from other areas as well for the benefits that are offered here. As a concerned resident, seeing this grow and knowing if it continues, we will have a situation out of control, not that it isn't already. I have had an incident where a drug addict was at the door of my home. And yes, I feared for my life. We know what is being done to help them, such as the free needle program. I question why this is done. The drug they use is illegal. We should not be okay with that. Fentanyl seems to be the drug of choice. That same drug was given to Hitler's troops to increase strength so that troops could march for 3 days nonstop. But what are we doing to deter them and help the other good citizens that have businesses and properties that aren't drug users? What resources are we using to help them, especially during the virus? I am proud of our police officers. They are doing an outstanding job, but they are limited by a catch and release program. They catch them and the judge gives them a court date and that's it. They are free to go back out into the streets. I have a problem with this, as do many. This is affecting our town and the good citizens that just want to run their businesses and go for their walks through this beautiful town. Oh, how I miss those walks. And what you allow is what will continue, and continuation will lead to an inner city in a small town, and residents will be forced to move out of the city to feel safe. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our next speaker is Patricia Meyer. Welcome.
Wasn't expecting to speak this afternoon, but thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I'm Patricia Frisbee Meyer. I have been born and raised here and raised my family here, and I have seen many changes from living on the last house on the road on High Creek to when I got married in the early 80s and moved to Meadow Street downtown so we could have cable. But little did we know back then, you know, that 40 years later, we were going to be worrying about needles on our street. The homeless in Frog Level, you don't, as the lady spoke, you don't feel safe walking through Frog Level anymore. I know this for a fact because I travel through there many times during the day, week, or in months, you know, and my grandchildren, they're startled when they have to go through there as well. And it's, you know, less than a mile from where I live. And I also have some things going on just a block behind me. And it really concerns me if we don't get a grip on it now and do something now, that we're going to be a little Asheville. And I don't want to be a little Asheville. I want to have my hometown back and not to be worried to walk down the street or worried that my grandkids may pick up or see a syringe on our sidewalk. I can't reiterate that enough. This is not that I'm against the homeless. To a degree, I am. I think we should handle our own people here in Haywood County and not be bringing them in here from somewhere else to take care of because we have the means. If they, you know, can keep straight and get into pathways and follow the rules there, you know, that's all fine and well, but, you know, it's very disturbing to see what has happened in the last, say, 10 years, you know. And I can speak to this because I have a scanner and I hear it, you know. And our police officer, I too am very proud of, between Walmart and what goes in Walmart and in the parking lot and what goes in Frog Level, we need a police station at both areas. Thank you. Thank you. I could say more, but.
Thank you, Patricia. Okay, our next speaker will be Jessie Lee Dunlap. Welcome, Jessie.
Thank you all very much. I'm going to kind of continue off what Lauren Wood was saying about there being an increase in the homeless population coming up. Last week, it was mentioned on a call between the WNC Homelessness Coalition folks that a few families on Section 8 vouchers in Cherokee County were facing eviction. Of this one person's caseload, nearly 10% of his households are about to be forcibly transitioned, 12 people total. And that's alarming to me because it's a decent percent, like if our homelessness increased by that much, it'd be about a 10% increase. And the situation there is similar to here in the elements that gentrification seem to be the leading reason people have become unhoused. The Cherokee County person, Daniel Ferreira, listed rising rental rates, owners shifting to short-term rentals, and allowing houses to deteriorate to the point of oblivion, as he put it, as the leading causes of folks losing their housing. And we see all three of those things here all the time. So just back in January, Mountain Projects put up some staggering numbers in a presentation here of available long-term rentals versus short-term rentals in Haywood. And if that's any indication of the entire Haywood rental market, it would make long-term rentals less than 2% of the market and vacation rentals the other 98+%. So when COVID-19 hit, we saw a slide of many of those vacation properties back into the long-term market as owners kind of like went FTFO on that. And we need to maintain that trend because and I don't know if it's somehow incentivizing long-term rentals or penalizing some kind of short-term rental. I mean, it's totally one thing if you're renting out your extra bedroom to make ends meet, and it's quite another to rent out 10 properties to tourists while locals are booted to the street. And the locals don't even have the option to buy anymore, as the median home sale price has gone from $159,000 to $300,000 in about 6 years. And that's according to one of the Beverly Hanks realtors, Pamela Penny Williams. And wages have not increased at that rate, like they haven't, doubled. So if we experience the same rate of Section 8 folks being forcibly transitioned as Cherokee County is, that's going to leave us, like I said, with a tremendous increase. And so it costs $30,000 per year on the back end of things for people to go unsheltered in our community. So if we look at that, even if it's 12 people that we end up with in the next few months being unhoused, that's about $360,000 increase to the already $3 million that we're paying for currently who are living on the street. $3 million worth, excuse me. And I'd like to recommend that the commissioners get with the Haywood County Homelessness Coalition, the Waynesville Task Force, and all the other people who are partnering to look at the homelessness issue so we can figure something out before this tsunami hits us. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jesse. I will say that I got an email today. I'm on that homeless task force, the homelessness task force, and our first meeting was supposed to be in March, and we couldn't have it because of COVID, so they're going to have a Zoom meeting, which will be our first meeting on Thursday, June 25th from 6 to 7 p.m. So that will be starting up in June 25, just for everybody's information. Our next speaker will be Becca Goldstein. Welcome.
Hi there. My name is Becca Goldstein. I do outreach work in Haywood County with the North Carolina Harm Reduction Coalition. And I'm here today to pose a question to contemplate, and that is, why are you here? What made you want to be leaders in this community? What motivates you to continue this work? I know from listening to you that the answer to those questions probably sounds something like, I believe in helping and supporting my community. If that does ring true, then here's something else to contemplate. Does your belief in helping your community, your reason for being a leader in this county, really align with your actions, your choices? And I'll tell you right now, your answer cannot be yes if in helping the community, you're purposely excluding entire groups of people from that help. A couple months ago, as COVID-19 took hold, an effort began to respond to the emergency housing needs of unsheltered folks in Haywood County who could not take basic precautionary measures to prevent the spread of this disease. So we, the people in this community, not the health department, we took matters into our own hands and implemented a logical, pragmatic public health initiative to provide these people with a shelter and keep our community safe. Where were you? In just 2 short months of offering folks housing, food, and support, there's been measurable success. 2 individuals secured employment, 1 person found 2 jobs and was able to move her and her family into alternative housing. We have a mother and newborn baby who are connected to a team of service providers, and the baby, who is previously underweight, is now at a normal weight and continuing to grow and thrive. One of our residents was able to orchestrate his own entry into a detox facility, and the list goes on. During all of this success, where were you? The other day, I went to pick up lunch from the Open Door to take to our shelter. As you know, the Open Door is now serving out of a food truck in a church parking lot. When I arrived to pick up the food, I took a look around me, and I remembered for a moment the feeling of being in the Open Door at mealtime. Did any of you ever go into the Open Door at mealtime? If not, why not? And if you did, you probably remember that as soon as you walk through those open doors, there's a sense of aliveness in the room, a sense of community, of sharing, of support, of feeling held, of feeling important and worthy and human. And now they're under the hot sun atop an asphalt parking lot. But by God, these folks are resilient. They figured out how they're going to keep feeding people when they're being shut down, and they're figuring out how to maintain that sense of support for a group of people in this community who have been cast aside, shamed, and ostracized. These are people who have stories. These are people who have trauma. Where were you to help stand up for them? Where were you? Right now, as we're taking a good hard look at ourselves and the oppressive norms we've come to embody, the people we've excluded, the people we've exhibited violence towards, as we start to make it our priority to transform, you have an opportunity. Through funding and advocacy and support, you have an opportunity to act on what you believe in, taking care of your whole community. I know there's been some funding allocated toward sheltering folks who are symptomatic or who test positive, but in public health terms, this is secondary prevention designed to prevent things from getting worse once they've already taken hold. In addition to other relief funding and being able to apply for FEMA, you're given over $1 million in CRF funds from the state to spend on public health-related needs in the community, which includes, according to the letter from Governor Roy Cooper, protecting the homeless. So why are you sitting on this funding that can be used for primary prevention to keep the disease from taking hold in the first place? This is a public health matter, and it should not be the responsibility of individual citizens to take measures like this to protect the health and safety of the entire community. Additionally, if you don't want unsheltered people in frog level, why are you sitting on funds that could get them sheltered and out of frog level? There's a need for this low-barrier shelter in our community. There are over 50 people on the wait list, and that number will increase exponentially. And to address the comments that were just made, this housing is addressing the root cause of people's substance use disorder. This is how we address it. When we continue to fight for and house these folks and turn this into a permanent fixture in our community, and we will, I don't want to be asking, where were you, our county leaders? I want to be saying you were here. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Becca. Our next speaker will be Abigail Alberg. Welcome.
Thank you. My name's Abigail Alberg. It's a pleasure to be with you gentlemen this evening. You know, it's funny, I've never been to a county commissioners meeting before, so I didn't realize the role that religion played in a court of law and in local government, but since apparently it does, I think you'll be delighted to find that there is a biblical precedent for what I'm about to say in the gospel teachings of Jesus Christ. It has been an honor to be a small part of this project to house part of our unsheltered community during this time of the COVID pandemic. I have been touched to become acquainted with these folks. Getting to know these folks as individuals has been a privilege. It has taught me about the common humanity we share, regardless of our socioeconomic differences. I have realized that not much separates me from an unsheltered person, except for circumstances that have happened to go right versus circumstances that have happened to go wrong. As far as I can tell, getting to know the people around you is what creates true neighborhoods, rather than strangers who happen to live in proximity to one another. If any of you have ever sought to experience meaningful change in the work that you do, I would recommend this kind of community building. And I hope that each of you do seek to bring about meaningful change through your work, because that is what you have been elected to do. Your job is to establish service levels for, among other things, mental and public health, public safety, and social services. Homelessness lies at the intersection of all these things. This particular project we are a part of has taken form as an immediate response to the COVID crisis. A group of committed individuals and organizations have taken on the responsibility and hard work to maintain this project, despite the lack of support, and in some cases, willful opposition of our elected leadership. As amazing as our volunteers are, I know we could achieve far greater gains in permanently housing our community's most vulnerable if we had the backing of support and funding from local government. Eventually, this global pandemic will subside. We will eventually have access to a vaccine. The local issue of homelessness will not be that way. It will not go away whether we continue to criminalize homelessness or whether we try to drive it out of town. The only way to find a long-term solution is to transform our approach. As elected officials, you need to see this as an opportunity to engage in creative problem solving, as well as collaborate with existing organizations and individuals who are already working towards solutions. You also need to listen to the needs and concerns of those experiencing homelessness so that your solutions match the nature of the problems. I understand that recent attempts to dialogue with you have focused on asking for existing funds to be released and utilized for this purpose. I think that needs to happen, and I also think you need to figure out how you are going to act creatively and compassionately to find a lasting solution for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Abigail. Okay, our next speaker will be Roger Haynes. Welcome.
Thank you all for this privilege. As a child of God, I am familiar with the open door since 2013. I've been called on in the last minute several times to get devotions. I'm not sure I can even do a devotion in 3 minutes, but I'm going to try to do what I can here. I just want to say that, yes, I've been affiliated with Open Door. I understand some of the complaints. This is true. Even I've seen where the homeless people has created problems there, and I understand that. And yet, still, I was in the midst of it, not as one that is doing it, but as one who preached to the people. I've been homeless several times in my life, and when I accepted Christ in my heart, I truly believe that part of my calling has been to the homeless, which is why I am affiliated with Open Door. Because of my character, I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with the Lodge, 909 Russ Avenue, which is now where Publix is at. Because of a person I am and different people speaking highly of me, because I was homeless, Cindy Smith, which was the owner's daughter who managed it, made a deal with me, asked me if I would work for my room only. And as a person who needed shelter, I accepted that. It was 2.5 years I worked as a maintenance man. It's very rough doing so. But yet still I learned one thing. Money's not everything. But shelter is. I left town for a little while. I came back, I guess, about 3 or 4 months ago. So through the help of the Open Door, there's some of us being sheltered out of Scottish Inn out in Maggie Valley. And what I want to say is I'm not asking for me. One thing I learned, when one door closes, God will open another door for me. But because there is people who are not drug addicts, for whatever reason, I mean, I've seen it so much in my life, which is why I believe in my callings to the homeless people. There's many people out there that are homeless, not just so much because I choose to be, but because of whatever circumstances. I've seen it in my life. You know, a house fire, you know, there's just so many reasons. And if you like, I have a copy of the paper of July 24th, talk about me, my character. The one thing I loved about the Lodge was Cindy, for church groups and, you know, certain people. She would give discounts, you know, to the different Christian organizations who need to put somebody up. I'm sorry. But thank you for your time. Could I leave a copy of this if anybody wants to read it?
Yeah, let's leave it with Tracy. And thank you for coming, Roger. Okay, our next speaker, I believe this is Ginger Alfred. and welcome.
Good evening, everybody. How are y'all doing? My name is Ginger Alfrey, and I just want you to know me. My first goal is to love God, then love people. That is what I try to do. I'm a single mother of 2 children. I have a job with benefits. I have attended your schools, your churches, your businesses, and your gatherings. I still live here and enjoy my community. I was homeless as a child with my mother from 91 to 93 in Haywood County. I was homeless again at 19 in Haywood County. I was homeless, unfortunately, again in 2016 with my own children in Haywood County. I did not choose to become homeless. It was circumstance and misfortune. When I was a child, we happened to lose a loved one. We went out of the state for his memorial service, and we had to use our rent money. When we came back, we couldn't get caught up. So we became homeless, unfortunately. Somehow, while being in grade school, I managed to make straight A's, taking bird baths in the convenience store gas station, sleeping in a car before I got repossessed, eating steady meals only when I was in school. It took the kindness of the community here in Haywood County to get me homed. It took programs such as Mountain Projects, food and nutrition, health coverage, and an entourage of other resources, including but not limited to mental health, self-help programs, churches, schools, and the Casey Valentines and the Jesse Lees of the community to fight for me, for my mother. Caring for people is not an easy job. This is one of the hardest things I've done, especially with your response to my email, Mr. Pless. Yet I still love and want good for you. I wanted to make sure that I thanked you personally for acknowledging that I had a tax bill of an unpaid car tax of $16 from 2012. I had no idea. I really appreciate you putting that on your personal Facebook page. I had really no idea. Also, in the future, if you want to ridicule me for speaking on the side of compassion and love for people, by all means do it in a public forum right here where everyone can see you do it, not just your personal Facebook page. Humanity is something that should not be overlooked when you're allocating funds and governing our people. No matter my stance in life, the bottom line is this: it's not up to you to judge or dictate my value. Let's just talk about the real issues. The unaffordable housing market. It's pushing our locals out on the streets. We are forced to work in the jobs that are way below living wage. I cannot afford, I'm almost done, I'm gonna finish, I'm sorry. I cannot afford to support 2 children on $7.25 an hour. I'm pretty sure you can't either. No one can support themselves. This, of course, leads to further issues and complications. Please address the real issues: the housing crisis, the suffering of substance use disorder. Use county funds to resolve individuals suffering from homelessness by giving it to the organizations that are already set in place. You should change the fact that people are put on a waiting list at Mountain Projects for 3 to 5 years. What happens in that time? And then have a housing assistance program where there's not even houses that can be taken advantage of. Please, let's just do something about this together. We should be raising minimum wage. No one can live on that. We are here with the same desires. We want homeless off the street. We want for the folks of our substance use disorder. We want our community to thrive. We cannot do that without meeting our basic needs as a community. That's the only way it can thrive, when we take care of the least of these. This foundation of hierarchy of needs is what we need. We can only thrive when it's done. I am going to do what I can in my limited resources. Commissioners, please use your incredible amount of resource that you have at your fingertips and make effective change. It's your obligation to our community. The only thing I have reiterated to the rearing of my children is to stand up and do the right thing, even if you're the only one standing. Please do not leave me standing here alone. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ginger. Okay, our next speaker will be Nicole Messia. And welcome again. Appreciate the other comments.
Okay, I'll try to talk a little bit slower. I get really quick talking. Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all today. My name is Nicole Messia. I'm a local Waynesville business and farm owner, and I can see frog level from my shop. I stand before you today with 15 years experience in pharmaceuticals, research devices, and working with some of the top brain surgeons in this great country of ours. If you are in Duke in brain surgery, there's a good chance I was in there directing your surgeon. Brain surgeons and brain development researchers know what trauma does to the brain and how the pathways are laid. A lot of trauma that people are self-medicating today stems back to childhood. We are imperfect people raising imperfect people. Most people will self-medicate with pharmaceuticals, opioids, street drugs, food, sex, gambling, maybe buying a monkey, you name it. What research now definitely knows is that people are needing help to get to the root cause of their pain. What we are seeing in our society is not working. I saw it in pharmaceutical research. I was part of the problem. The system is set up to push chemicals which just sedates a symptom without getting to the root cause. The process is only putting a Band-Aid on things and kicking the issue down the road. Talk therapy can only get a person so far. There is a time and place for all, but there is a huge array of tools that can actually get results. A healed person is no longer a revenue stream to the system that is not serving or healing the people. We have a huge and growing problem in our society, system, and communities. Chemicals are killing people, they're destroying families and communities. Look at our opioid crisis. We must have resources and access to help these people with other tools, avenues, and proven plant medicine if we want to get the results we desire for the people and our community. We need to provide a space for these people if we want them off the streets. What we have now is not working. Chemicals are killing people while plants are healing others. I know this. I see results daily in my shop in Waynesville. We have a functional medicine doctor who sees patients on a donation basis in our shop. He has over 40 incurable medical conditions that he was able to resolve with hands and plants. He even helped a little blind girl to see under DSS duress, all with hands and plants. What I'm seeing is a grave lack of education, which is perpetuating a broken cycle, and it's presenting things like what we are seeing in frog level. Again, I am a business owner and farm owner in this great community of ours, and we would welcome the opportunity in any way to help educate and support the needed changes to get the results we are looking for. For together, if we join hands in educated decisions, we can help change the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Our next speaker will be Melanie Williams. Welcome, Melanie.
Good evening, gentlemen. I appreciate your time. I actually wanted to bring some good news to you today. So one of the things that we've been hearing about a lot lately is the number of deaths from COVID-19 in our nursing homes. And I know that many of us are really concerned about this, but there was an article published this week that brought to light the fact that we've been operating under false information. So there was a database set up by the CDC and the health agencies that required nursing homes in the United States to report the number of cases that they had and the number of deaths that they had. And this past week, an article was written and published on MedPage in which facility directors were responding to the numbers that were being listed for them. So they had submitted the numbers themselves, and then they started to get alarmed calls from the family members of their patients because of the numbers that were reported on the database. So officials at skilled nursing facilities around the country said they were shocked to see their data reported inaccurately. wildly so in some cases. And at the time of the writing of this article, 88% of the nursing homes in the country had reported their numbers. So here's just a few of these numbers that were found to be incorrect. Southern Point Living Center in Colbert, Oklahoma, that has 95 beds, had been reported to have 339 residents die, which obviously is impossible. If you have 95 beds, you can't lose 339 people. And they actually had 0 cases of COVID and 0 deaths. They said, we have not lost anyone, nor have we had a single case in this building. The CDC called the facility to ask if the numbers were correct, and we said no. Days later, there had still been no correction. Saugus Rehab and Nursing Center in Saugus, Massachusetts, had reported on the database that 794 confirmed cases of COVID had been found. They were the second highest in the country. In fact, that facility, reported to have 794 cases, only has 80 beds. And 45 residents had tested positive. They'd had 5 deaths. Another facility in New Jersey with 90 beds was reported to have 753 deaths. Another facility in Chicago was reported to have 1,105 cases, but only has 100 beds and 38 positives. So the question is what we're doing to react to this virus justified based on the information we have? So now that we know that the numbers that have been terrifying the country as far as nursing home deaths are problematic, what else do we have to stand on? Well, the testing, right? So what are the numbers of tests that are coming back positive? Dr. Deborah Birx of the White House Coronavirus Task Force has said repeatedly that at least 50% of all positive tests are false positives. And this comes directly from the head doctor from the Coronavirus Task Force. Then we also have that NBC 12 reported that many states, including North Carolina, were counting the number of tests as the number of cases. So if you go and you get 3 tests and they all come back positive, that in some cases being counted as 3 cases. So our test numbers are obviously problematic. We also have the issue with the tests arriving contaminated with coronavirus. Britain received a shipment of tests from the United States, and when they checked the tests, before they'd even been used on anyone, they already had coronavirus on them. They refused the test. Then we have the interesting story of the president of Tanzania who was suspicious of his test, and so he tested a pawpaw fruit and a goat, and they both had coronavirus, according to the test. So we now know that the numbers of deaths are wrong. We know that they're classifying people dying from COVID who have never been tested. We know that New York added 3,700 deaths to their total in one day of people who had never been tested. We know that Colorado recently reduced their statewide figures from 1,150 to 878 because they said they'd counted wrong. So the question is, and then Tony Fauci said, if you look at the now 90,000 people who've been affected and the number of deaths that have occurred, about 80% of individuals who get infected do really quite well without any specific intervention. Namely, they spontaneously recover. I know that our state is talking about the potential of a lockdown again. Today, Governor Cooper said that he might enforce mandatory masks around the state. And I am here to you today to just ask you to consider whether the responses that we're taking are justified, and if we even know what the situation we are in actually is. If we can't trust the number of tests, if we can't trust the number of deaths, then how are we supposed to make educated choices on how to protect our community? We do know that there's been one coronavirus-related death in Haywood County, and that was a suicide from somebody who was scared that they might test positive for the illness. Otherwise, we've had none here. So please consider this as recommendations are made to you to lock down our economy again, to force masks, to change the entire way our children go to school in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Melanie. Our next speaker will be Diane Beauregard. Diane here? Oh, there you are. Welcome, Diane. I guess that's Diana, sorry.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for your work as public servants during these challenging times. I'd like to jump off somewhat from where Melanie is. Facing challenges with truth. I speak to all of the agendas that are tied together in this global crisis with a strong desire for truth as a remedial action in the effective management of COVID-19 and all that arises from its use as a bioweapon against humanity. Truth is a prerequisite to freedom. Embracing truth can only lead to unity and enlightenment. So if we continue to allow this censoring of truth, we will only see further the deterioration of our constitutional rights. We'll never break free from the net of tyranny that it's being cast. Can we organize public hearings that address these individual topics? The COVID-19 corruption, why are all the issues that revolve around the coronavirus so controversial? The actual number of cases, what are the North Carolina benchmarks? The impact of continued lockdowns, the rioting and looting, peaceful protests? I don't know, I'm confused about that one. Contact tracing issue, that's a major concern because of the many areas of our life that HR Bill 6666 is set to deliver. There are better ways to manage a crisis. All agendas, past, present, and future that arise will have the most optimal outcomes for the highest good of all citizens, young and old alike, when we consider all of the research, not just the accepted narrative. Those under censorship are the ones we need to be paying attention to, in citing as our sources of intelligent information. Let's not be afraid of truth, but inject it as our vaccine into the body of our collective voice. That action will break us free from the corruption that plagues society in every corner of the world. The covert operations of corporate greed and misuse of power have compromised many lives throughout history and have resulted in the downfall of civilizations. Today, they threaten every aspect of our lives. We as a community need to stand together to protect the health, education, commerce, recreation, and spiritual freedoms that our country was allegedly founded on, and that we as a race of intelligent beings deserve. Being authentic and transparent in our community is a show of greatness. The corruption in the world is built on a black box of lies and deception. We must circumvent these continued assaults by uniting in our common purpose. Gratefully, we turn to our elected officials, entrusting you as our community leaders to help keep our communities safe. We're on the precipice of great change. United in truth, we can make an incredible difference. To give an example of individual public hearings, the COVID truths, what are the actual documented researches around this? The vaccines in HR 6666, how that will affect our community, 5G and the advancement of uncharted, dangerous technology, safety and protection from foreign invaders like Antifa or other rogue groups that are destroying the fabric of communities. The action plan of UN Agenda 21 is the playbook of the world stage today. Many do not know about this. If you study the action plan carefully, you'll get a snapshot of the world designed by the global elite, developed by members of the World Economic Forum in Davos. I'm almost done. Scenarios for the Future of Technology and International Development was written in 2010, but in development since the 1970s. Or our local Growing Smart legislative guidebook, you may have seen that as commissioners. These things need to be brought out in open forums, resisted whenever appropriate in protecting our rights as human beings. Will you as our community spokespersons and developers of our community be willing to hold meetings that give more focus to these very important issues? This 3-minute concerned citizen opportunity to speak is greatly appreciated, but of no value unless we can pursue further dialogue and action. If so, please can we schedule some of these as focused forums? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Diane. Thanks for coming. Our next speaker will be Casey Stefan. Welcome, Casey. Yeah. That might wake us all up.
That button yet. Let me clean this up. Worked in public health too long. I'm a germaphobe. COVID. So if we keep this up, we may have to get one of those shock collars, like for the hound dogs, to put on me when I start talking too much. My name is Casey Valentine Stefan. I'm a community health worker, and I came today to talk about statistics for a group that I'm working with. We interview about 3,000 people to find the health disparities. These are research scientists, medical doctors, members of the community. And so it kind of helps. And one of the things that I don't like is really opinion-based politics. I kind of think that's why we are where we are right now. But I'm just going to email those statistics to you because I just want to say that I still think this is one of the greatest counties in the country. I mean, look at all these people. Even if I don't agree with them, I just want to hug them for getting up here and saying what they feel. Is that not the greatest thing in the world? Is it not the greatest thing that those homeless people back there were on the streets down here, upsetting these people over here? These people came, got them, put them in a hotel, got them food. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we can do that, if we all get on the same page, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I'll tell you what we're going to do. Since the 1980s, we all know this little secret kind of conspiracy, is that when these bigger cities want to see how something works, they look at some of the smaller counties. They get the data from the smaller counties. If something will work in a place like Haywood County, it's going to work anywhere. Because, you know, we're a little eccentric, we're a little extra sometimes. But I do want to say this. As somebody that is on the board of a nonprofit, I get calls all the time, and people talking about allocating funds for those nonprofits. And we're, like, the nonprofit I'm on is a zero administration costs, zero pay. Like, we pretty much raise money, give out socks and Band-Aids, sometimes Supreme pizzas at the hotel to the hospital, or at the hotel. And I got involved in all this because I am kind of a little bit of a mountain conspiracy theorist, and I started hearing all these things about needle exchange, so I'm going to get all up in that. And as a public health professional, I understand hepatitis C and all of those things, and I'm hearing these things talking about giving somebody a needle is enabling them. No, they would just use dirty needles. And saying that giving them needles is keeping them on drugs. And I want to make this very, very clear as someone that's worked in public health and private practice. These people are not doing drugs because they're getting free needles. They are doing drugs because they are getting raped in a barn as a child, or because they didn't have any food growing up. And that's where we're at. So I don't really want government involvement. Like, I get that, we're on the same page there. But what I do need to happen is when nonprofits come in and we can only get money because the federal government says you have to be with a government organization, which is bullcrap, by the way, then I need y'all to be like, okay, let's talk about this, okay? Because that's where I'm at. Because all these people right here, we're going to keep doing what we're doing, all right? And we're going to come to you for leadership and guidance. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I appreciate those that have exchanged emails, okay? And I will email those statistics for you.
Thanks, Casey. Okay, our next speaker is Rossi Mcdonald. Welcome. That's okay. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having us all here. I wanted to speak to you guys about these difficult times that we're in and the position that you all have here in hearing our voices. And, you know, I only simply ask that you stay true to your oath to speak for the people of this community. Be the voice for those whose voices can so easily be drowned out by the sensationalism and hysteria that is being so easily portrayed through the media. You know, they have a large bullhorn, you know, supplied to them by a small minority of special interest groups. Please don't let the media affect our county's decisions. We are the people. Our community's voices are the people who need to be heard. These are who you stand for and represent. Thank you for representing us. Thank you for upholding your position to make the tough decisions with truth and honor. These are difficult times, and all of us need reminders of why we do what we do. For faith, for family, for our God-given rights of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness, which I'm afraid can so easily be forgotten or dismissed when fear and status quo become the standard that we gauge our actions and decisions by. There are many here today who feel the need to express their voice, who feel the need to be heard. Thank you for allowing them to be able to do just that, without shame, without judgment, and without ridicule. Knowing that these are the people of this community. These are who you represent. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Ross. Thank you for coming tonight. Okay, that's all that I have signed up to speak. Would anyone else like to address the board? Okay, come on up. Janet? You're a regular. That's okay. No, it's like Casey said, it's great people can come and speak. We appreciate it.
I had no idea this was going to be so interesting until I started coming. I'm Janet Preston. I'm an RN here in Haywood County, and I got a copy of the agenda for tomorrow night's meeting of the Haywood County Health and Human Services Committee, their board, and there was an item on there that says board review of letter in support of vaccinations. So I asked for and received a copy of that letter entitled Vaccines Save Lives. Vaccines may save lives, but this letter contained completely biased information. It was very similar to those pharma commercials that they play nonstop on TV. It cites the 317 Coalition. This group is solely focused on advocating for increased funding of vaccinations, but the group contains vaccine manufacturers and groups funded by pharma. That's a huge conflict of interest. I did give your staffer a copy of this letter for everybody, and like I said, it is going to be talked about tomorrow night at the meeting, and I will be, I've already signed up to speak on that call. I think this letter is unethical and intellectually dishonest, and it's completely one-sided. Vaccines contain neurotoxins, carcinogens, and other toxins, and that is a fact, and you can look it up on the CDC's website and see lists of the ingredients. Some people are injured and or killed, and that fact needs to be recognized, and that happens to Haywood County citizens. You guys all know that I've got an adult son who was brain injured at 15 months. He's not the only one. In this audience, we've got more families who have got a loved one who was vaccine injured. You know, I know some of them, I don't know everybody in the audience, but it is not rare. And that's what the health department, that is part of their job, to understand that and to represent those of us that have had somebody vaccine injured. You know, Rob is a citizen of this county. He votes. He takes part in this things going on in this county, and he needs to be recognized. You know, it's not just about the unvaccinated or the vaccinated. Children in Haywood County, they may not experience measles and mumps and chickenpox because they've been vaccinated, but they're not healthy. Academic pediatrics paper that was published in 2011 found that at least 54% of American children have a diagnosed chronic condition. 1 in 8 has asthma, 1 in 5 has eczema, 1 in 12 has a true food allergy, IgE mediated, 1 in 80 celiac disease, 1 in 6 mental health disorder, 1 in 36 has autism now. 1 in 36. And that's not just the quirky ones that you see on TV. That is many of these that are at home just completely devastated. I mean, and many of them are in institutions now too. 1 in 6 has a learning disability in this country. Something's causing that. And many of these folks are even undiagnosed. Citizens, some of the questions I have as a citizen of Haywood County: who wrote this letter? What prompted this letter? What's going to be done with this letter? Why is the Haywood Health and Human Services refusing to recognize the fact that vaccines can and do cause injury and death in some? And why is the health department only representing the vaccinated? We've just got to do more. We've got to do more. They've got to work with us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Janet. Would anyone else like to speak? Ms. Copeland? And welcome again.
I actually had not intended to speak again, but I heard the lady, and I wanted to concur with what she says. Having worked at a health food store for 16 and a half years, I saw numerous vaccine-injured children, numerous, some severe, many with autism. And basically, their doctors, when the parents refused further vaccines, they just dismissed them. And they were left with nowhere to go. They had a severe problem to deal with and nobody to help them. So I appreciate the fact that she's willing to come forward. And I live next door to a severely vaccine-injured child who, to this day in her 20s, cannot eat on her own, cannot breathe on her own, has to have a tracheotomy, had to have a tracheotomy. She cannot walk, speak. I've actually had vaccine-injured children in my family. My grandson was vaccine-injured, and it took me years, or the family, years and lots of expense going to a naturopathic chiropractor who was filled with patients from all over the country who had vaccine injuries. And so I appreciate the fact that you're willing to listen to the other side of the story. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Copeland. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Being no one, I'll close the public comment session. I appreciate everyone's comments tonight. Very healthy in our county that we can have people come and speak, and we appreciate y'all coming. Our next order of business is our constituent concerns, and I'll ask Chris to come forward and maybe give us an update on us opening. And while he's coming forward, does any of the other commissioners have any constituent concerns? Tommy, you want to start with you? Did you have any you want to mention?
Well, we got a email barrage. I think all of us probably did about the monkey issue.
Speak in your mic, too. Speak in your mic.
I'm sorry. I had several emails speaking to the monkey issue. I'm sure everyone else did. Got those, got that feedback, and of course we had the public comment session tonight. And I do want to say one thing, something hadn't been mentioned here. Just a comment, and it's kind of flew under the radar. Some of you may remember our law enforcement, such a wonderful job the officer did out at Lake Junaluska. Apparently the Lake Junaluska vehicle was carjacked. There was a high-speed pursuit, and this vehicle was entering into a highly congested area where a lot of people walk, a lot of pedestrians, and the officer put that vehicle in the lake and possibly saved a lot of people's life. He made a quick reaction. I commend that officer, and I want to say that our sheriff's deputies are appreciated, and law enforcement that maintain law and order in our county. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate that situation that occurred out at Lake Junaluska. So I wanted to say that. I had several comments about that also, about what a good job that guy did. So had other constituent concerns that presented with the county manager and other staff, and they handled it. So that's about all I had.
Okay, thank you, Tommy. You got anything, Brandon?
Yeah, Chris.
Well, go ahead, Chris. You can update us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Several good folks at the county's been working for some weeks to formulate a plan to reopen county facilities. That plan's come together pretty solid. Each facility is very specific in itself. The courthouse and the services provided versus HHSA, versus the library. So we've put together a really good plan, and we're looking to execute that plan in the next couple of weeks, provided that the statistics are still there and based on some recommendations from our medical personnel. Just by example, we're looking at different phases of opening. We have folks telecommuting here that may continue to do so for some period of time in the future, yet undetermined. An example of what may open is the county courthouse, for instance. Maybe just the second floor initially for a few weeks to see how that goes with the services that's provided by the tax collections, register of deeds. Some other folks that may not necessarily have much interface with the public, like the finance office or HR, may remain closed for a few weeks beyond. Primarily looking to open those facilities that does have the interaction and interface with the public on a daily basis. We've gathered some supplies from hand sanitizers to wipes to disinfectant products, masks, gloves, that we can provide some of the staff and even offer some things to the public if they wish to use those. We're going to highly recommend that masks be used, but it will not be required at this point unless decisions are made differently before we open. So it's coming together. It's slow. We've consulted folks from each particular building who have been tasked with talking with the other agencies that may be in their building. So we feel like we have a good plan. We're going to talk with department heads about some of this in the morning and see how things go in the next couple of weeks and hope to open possibly even as early as the 29th for the phase 1 of county facilities.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Chris on that? Okay, appreciate your planning on that, Chris. And I know the public's looking forward, and I think the employees are looking forward to get back to a more normal routine. So, thank you. Okay. Brandon, do you have anything?
No, I'd just like to make a comment. You know, it's good that we live where we live in Haywood County, that you can come to a place like this, I've said this before, and share your concerns, share your opinion, or talk about whatever you want to, has been evident tonight. You know, you can't go down to the State House or go up to Washington and do the same thing, unfortunately. So it's good that we live in a county that allows you to come and speak and voice your opinion and concerns. So I'd just like to make that comment. And most of the concerns and topics that we've covered here this evening, I've either got an email, phone call, or a visit about. The ones that wasn't discussed tonight, we've already handled outside of this with the staff. But, you know, there's a lot of topics that we've had here tonight. There's been many speakers, and we've covered everything, seems like. But I want you guys to know that I always listen to both sides. Even though I've got my own opinions and got some facts to back it up, I always listen to the other side as well, because I don't think I have a monopoly on everything, don't think I know everything for sure. So I'm always open to listen and allow you to change my mind. So just wanted to make that comment.
Hey, Kirk, you got anything?
You know, I don't know if I have any real specific comments tonight or any. Sometimes you try to have answers for people's questions and for their comments. And so I guess just, you know, some of my thoughts going in the next few weeks and things that I'll be looking at and the comments that I took from people and their understanding. And most of those folks, you know, they make their individual comments and their beliefs, and I respect each person's individual comments and beliefs on certain things. But unfortunately, with all of these issues, or fortunately with all these issues, there's so many things that we have to look at that get factored into that. And you know, and I'm just going to write down I'm just going to say these bullet points, and I'm really not going to comment much on those, but just things that I was thinking about as people were talking. And you know, life choices, the life choices that we all make. Our faith. What is our faith, and who is our faith in? Addiction, you know, who has addiction, and what kind of addictions do people have, and how do they get over those addictions, and the effort that people make in those choices, mental health. Mental health is something that the state has really dropped the ball on as far as funding, and that really fuels a lot of the issues that we're having right now. Who are the homeless? Who are our homeless people? I mean, I see homeless people. I travel frog level 4, 5, 6 times a day. I have lived in this community and in and around this community for 51 years in that community. Who are those people and how did they become homeless? Was it a choice? Was it not a choice? Is it an effort? Is it a choice that they live that way? I mean, we just don't know that when we talk about the group of homeless as a whole. And I don't want to get caught up in collectivism and emotional decisions in regards to that, because it is more than that. Affordability, there's no question. Housing and affordability with housing is a tremendous issue that we have and will continue to have. Not everyone's story is the same. We can qualify and say this happened and this is why this person is homeless or this situation, but not everyone's story is the same, and please don't try to make it that way. And the other thing is, whose job is it to fund this to help these people? That's a big question. The folks come up here and say, well, you have a lot of resources. You, as a county commission, as 5 people sitting there, have a lot of resources, like it's our job just to dole out money for certain things, but that's just not the case. We represent the people that you talked about. We represent the people in this room, and we represent thousands and thousands of people that are not here right now and not expressing that. And so we represent everyone. And when we make a decision, we can't just say, well, this group needs help. And years ago, when we didn't have a tremendous amount of money and the economy was bad, we made decisions to defund some of the nonprofits, because we had to take care of the simple things for our people, and that was the money that we had, and we couldn't fund the nonprofits. So, however, when you don't fund nonprofits, then you end up having other issues that the government has to deal with as well, and the county has to deal with. And it's a balancing scale, and it is a difficult one. It's a difficult one to hear people's stories and the tough stories that they have, and wonder, can we really do that as a government entity? And as people out here and as our citizenry, how much do you really want the government to step into your lives? Because once you go down that path, once you help these people, does that mean you dictate what they can and cannot do with their lives? Because you say, we did this for you. We helped you. And so I don't know how much we want to go down that path. But at any rate, these are all issues that certainly I'm concerned about, that I think about, that I usually try to have an answer for something, and I don't have an answer for all these things. But I do know that the things that I pointed out do contribute to the issues that we have going on right now. And I hope we continue to work on those, and I hope people continue to come here and voice their opinions. It is a place, as Brandon said, that you can voice your opinion, and you can't do that too many places where you can actually be heard and it not be distorted. And when you come here and you speak, it is what it is, and it cannot be distorted, and I do appreciate that. And certainly we'll continue to look at all of these issues and see what we can do and how we can do that, and what role the county plays in that.
Kirk, anything, Mark? Go ahead. I guess my biggest thing, as I sat here and I listened to everybody tonight, I can enjoy conversation. I can enjoy different perspectives. And I believe I said that the last time. Tonight, for the most part, was that. It was people voicing their concerns, voicing their ideas. Mental health will always be an issue in America, but it'll also be an issue in every other country. We have failed miserably. And for those who read the article in the Smoky Mountain News, I think the state of North Carolina can do more. I think the state of North Carolina owes the western part of the state a place to where people can go get treatment. I have heard Medicaid expansion from a lot of different people. I'm not real sure Medicaid expansion would do what they want it to do, but I know if we had a treatment facility around here, it would help the people that were brought up tonight, those who do suffer from traumas, those who do suffer from issues that growing up has left them with. Growing up is hard in a normal life. Some people have never enjoyed a normal life, and I get that. Substance abuse doesn't fix the problem. I'm a person of fixing problems. You can ask my kids, they can sit down and they can discuss things with me, my wife included, and I listen to them and then I try to figure out the solution. Small talk doesn't do any good. It wastes everyone's time. Working behind the scenes to find a solution is one of the responsibilities that I think each of the 5 of us have. The problem is we're very limited as to what we can do. It would be great to be able to take $1 million out of the fund balance and create a mental health facility here in Haywood County. The problem is how do you keep people that aren't part of Haywood County out of it? That wouldn't be any more right than any of the other ideas. People are going to come here seeking help if they thought they could get it for free. The state of North Carolina could help us. So far, that's not been something that has been brought up. I'm about accountability. If you tell me you're going to do something, do it. If you tell me you're going to bring something, bring it. I was in a meeting with Harm Coalition last week, and I'm still waiting on numbers. When I sit down and I make some of the statements that I do, a lot of people don't understand the statements I make. I'm looking for answers. The problem is I have to find the answers myself. All I want is the information. I see a larger picture. These other 4 gentlemen up here see a larger picture. I had no idea Haywood County had as many issues as it does, but I also had no idea that Haywood County had as many resources as it does. The problem is there's no organization for it. The folks in West Waynesville, Frog Level, you deserve to be able to go out into public. You deserve to be able to go out and enjoy your life. There's always going to be crime. I want to see it reduced because we're not doing anything to create it, to cause it to get worse. Does that mean all of these people that are here are criminals? No. We have criminals in Bethel. I have no homeless people that I know of in Bethel. If you leave a lawnmower setting out, it probably won't be there in the morning, and they're not going to mow with it. If they were going to mow somebody's yard, I'm okay with it. This is a struggle to figure out answers and try to understand. Finding answers is the goal here. And I appreciate everybody that did come out and speak. Sometimes sitting in this position, you get a lot of harsh comments or you get a lot of lashing out, and I tend to lash back. And sometimes that's not the best way to carry on a conversation. That's just the natural way for someone who has a very strong personality to react. So thank each of you for coming. And like I've always said, my phone number's plastered everywhere. And if you have any questions or you can give me any information, by all means, call me at any time. Okay, thank you, Mark. And I do appreciate everyone coming out, and I appreciate the courage everyone had to get up and speak. And I saw a lot of emotion, and we, everybody, come here and speak. You definitely get out of your comfort zone, and I really appreciate it. There's a lot of meetings we don't have any public comment whatsoever. In fact, that was probably most of our meetings. So it seems like the last several meetings we've had some great public comment, and I just appreciate the citizens coming out to do that during this time. And I appreciate everyone's emotion and everyone's commitment to come tonight. And I also want to make a comment that we're very blessed in Haywood County to have a great law enforcement. Our sheriff does a great job. Chief Hollingshead, I don't know the new police chief, but he did a great job when he was there. All the municipalities, Chief Whitener, and now I believe it's Chief Gaddis, and then we had Chief Sutton in Maggie Valley, which I believe is Gilliland. Is that right, Brandon? And then Chief Troutman in Clyde. So we are very blessed in Haywood County with the law enforcement that we have. And so I just wanted to make a comment on that. And, you know, Kirk and I both work in a field where we see people that are coming here, and we do work for them, and when they're buying homes here, and it's we have a lot of people that are coming here because they feel safe in our community, and they love this community, and they love the homey feel I think the mountains have. And so we're very blessed in the community we live in. And I just want to thank everybody, like I said, to come out and get out of your comfort zone and be able to speak to everyone here tonight. So thank you all for coming out. Okay, I'm going to move on. Now give you all a hand. Give everybody a hand. Okay, and then I want to move on to our administrative agency reports and presentations. We do not have any of those tonight. And our next order of business is a discussion or adjustment to the agenda. And I'm going to add 7 items, 7, 8, and 9. And I think all the commissioners have those in your packet. So if you would look at those, I'm going to add those to number 7, 8, and 9 of the consent agenda. These are mostly housekeeping items that we usually do at the end of the year. And in fact, I wouldn't doubt if we might end up having another meeting maybe before the end year's out to maybe approve some things if we need to, Brian. You know, sometimes we can get 3 of us together if we need to do something. So if we need to do that, and occasionally we have to do that at the end of the year. So because the fiscal year ends here at June 30. So the 7 items to add to the agenda are: number 7 will be to request approval of the State of North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services annual agreement for the protection, development, and improvement of the forest land in Haywood County, North Carolina. And then number 8 is to request approval to extend the grant utilization period as referenced in the Restricted Fund Management Services Agreement from June 30th, 2020 to September 30th, 2020. And then number 9 is to request approval of the contract for aging services between the county and the Southwestern Planning and Economic Development Commission pertaining to the federal funding provided by the Families First and CARES Act. And these items will be in our Laserfish, and they're marked with a star. Okay, so in y'all's packet. So I'm going to, is that okay? Is everyone okay with the addition to the agenda? Does anybody have anything that they want to add? Okay. Okay, so I'll move to, our next order of business will be our consent agenda. The first item of the consent agenda is to request approval of the June 1st, 2020 regular meeting minutes. The second is to request approval of the May 20th refunds, releases, amendments, and discoveries. That's under attachment 3. Our next item is to request approval of the May 2020 tax collections, updates, and refunds. That's under attachment 4. And Greg's here if you have any questions for him. I did notice that we were down just a touch, but that's kind of, we know why that is going on. The next item, number 4, is to request approval to renew stop-loss insurance plan through Voya Financial in the amount of $888,000, $888,875 to be paid from fiscal year 2020 to 2021 budgeted funds, and approval for the county manager to execute a required document for said renewal. That's under attachment 5. This has to do with our health insurance, and this is budgeted. And by the way, Voya saved us some money, I believe, by going to them, right, Brian? Okay, then next, we have a request approval of the IT department's renewal of contracts, annual contracts over $20,000 for fiscal year 2020-2021 to be paid from budgeted funds. The first of those is the Kronos timekeeping in the amount of $29,148.06. That's attachment 6. We have the next one is Laserfish in the amount of $29,595.12 under attachment 7. The next is Tyler Technologies and Munis in the amount of $78,332.60 under attachment 8. The next is the VMware in the amount of $23,331 under attachment 9. Next is to request approval of the budget amendments. It's a special revenue fund, and this is the Junaluska, I think it says Lake Junaluska Sanitary District, but that's the Lake Junaluska Sanitary District in the amount of $45,000 to increase the budget to reflect the annual amount of tax revenue collected through June 30th. That's under attachment 10. Next is the capital project fund, school projects, is to transfer $750,000 already approved to go to the school system to cover the cost of renovations for Annex 2 from the general fund to a multi-year capital outlay account since the project may not be completed by June 30th. That's under attachment 11. Next is from the general fund, Health and Human Services Administration, is the Health Department, $79,475 to recognize the federal funds from the Division of Public Health Preparedness and Response Branch to support the public health emergency response to COVID-19. That's under attachment 12. And then the last one is from the general fund, Health and Human Services Health Department, the WNC Bridge Grant, $4,000 to recognize the grant awarded to the public health for the emergency housing for Haywood County residents who need isolation or quarantine. That's under attachment 13. And then, of course, we have those 7 items that I've already gone over. Item 7 is the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services Agreement. Item 8 is to request approval to extend the grant utilization period. And item 9 is to request approval for the contract for the aging services between the county, Southwestern North Carolina Planning and Economic Development Commission pertaining to federal funding provided through the Families First and the CARES Act. So does anybody have any, is that okay? Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the consent agenda? That was a mouthful. Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Okay, and then the next item, the next order of business of the regular agenda is to move, the first item is to request approval of the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, the JCPC annual plan and certification documents, and we have our JCPC chair, Brad Reniger, here. And Brad, I'm sorry you had to wait.
No, it's no problem.
For long, but I
will say, y'all don't get paid enough.
It's okay.
I'll be more than happy to present whatever you would like, but at the risk of making this meeting go on too long, if there's any questions you have about the proposal that was sent, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Brad? We appreciate this program. I know that, I think Mark's on that board, right, Mark?
Yes. Yeah.
You have any comments, Mark, on it or anything? Okay, it's pretty common.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion that we request approval of the JCPC annual plan and certification documents.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Next is the second item is to request approval of a memorandum of understanding between Haywood County, acting through its Tourism Development Authority, TDA, all local municipalities, and Lake Junaluska Assembly, Inc., pertaining to 23 wayfinding signs within the county. We have our program administrator, David Francis, and our TDA executive director, Lynn Collins, here tonight. And this is attachment 15, and we had talked about this, I think, a year or two ago, and it looks like it's come to fruition. So go ahead, Lynn.
Yes, it's been a very long time coming. We've actually been working on this for about 2.5 years, and here's a sample of what the signage would look like. The blue across the top represents the water because we are a headwaters county, and you'll see the elk up there, which will be on the top of the signs that are located in the county. Any of the signs that are located in city limits will have a different animal on it. If they're in Canton, they will have a black bear on it. Clyde will have a cardinal. Waynesville will have a plot hound, and Lake Junaluska will have a bald eagle. And Maggie will have the elk. So anyway, we've got the MOU finally. This project started out with 44 signs. We ended up getting approval from DOT for 23 signs. That doesn't mean that we'll stop there. We can go back to the drawing board and try again to get those additional signs that we had hoped for. We just want to get it done quick. The TDA will be responsible for paying for the fabrication of all the signs, and the municipalities in Lake Junaluska will be responsible for the cost of installation of the signs. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them or try.
Okay, has anybody got any questions?
How many signs did we end up getting? I forgot.
We ended up with 23.
23.
I can tell you that the NCDOT guidelines for wayfinding signage is not written with rural counties in mind. That's been one of the problems. It says that all of the wayfinding signage has to be within 2.5 miles of a municipal limits, and that's not where we need our signs in Haywood County.
Yeah.
You know, we need our signs to direct people to the other towns and be close enough in the outlying areas to get them off of I-40, but also as they're going through the county to see the signs directing them to the other towns so that they just don't immediately go straight to Asheville or straight to Cherokee. So
I assume that's a sign that's going to go at the intersection of 276 and 19.
Yes.
How many signs, Lynn, did you say? 44 originally?
Yes.
And we got 23. Who's responsible for putting the signs up?
The contractor that's doing the fabrications, it's Sign, et cetera, out of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
They will be doing the fabrication and the installation.
And as far as the location of the signs, does the TDA have a input on that?
Yes. The committee that worked on this was each of the town managers along with the TDA.
That's right.
So
looks good.
the project is supposed to be hopefully completed with the 23 signs by October 1st.
If you had so were there more locations that you'd like to put signs, but the DOT wouldn't allow it or something?
Absolutely.
Well, what if it's a private property owner and they allowed it? Could we do that? Could we work with the property owner? Because I tell you, I mean, being a surveyor, there's a lot of DOT right-of-ways where they just maintain from ditch to ditch, and they don't have right-of-ways. And I know a lot of those roads.
Mm-hmm.
So if we had permission from a property owner, the DOT wouldn't even have a say.
And we can work with our contractor to look at reciting some of those locations that we had chosen to see if maybe they can be moved a little bit one way or the other and then go back to DOT. But it's been a struggle.
Yeah, if there's like locations you'd like to have signs, if you let me know, I kind of already know. I've done the research throughout my years in the county. And I would know if, hey, we just need to talk to this property owner, and maybe we can give them, I don't know, give them $100 or something, let us put their sign there or something, I don't know. Or maybe they'll just, let us do that for the good of the communities because, because the DOT don't have right-of-way some places.
Well, in this first round of signage, Canton's definitely the winner. They're going to have more signs than the other municipalities.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
I know U.S. Highway from Canton to Clyde, there's no right-of-ways. There's no recorded right-of-ways. They'll claim a right-of-way, but there's no recorded right-of-ways. So if you need any up and down through there, just get with the property owner. We'll show them. Anyway, that's just a thought. I'm being a rebel. Okay, anybody have any questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Is that right? Larry Tracy, I need a motion to request approval of a memorandum of understanding between Haywood County, acting as its Tourism Development Authority, TDA, all local municipalities and Lake Junaluska Assembly pertaining to 23 wayfinding signs within the county. So can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
So we'll say that's a first and a second then. Okay, then any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Okay, that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Thanks for waiting. Oh, those look good too. I like the elk.
Thank you.
We couldn't have an elk 20 years ago, and now that's a good thing. Okay, the next item is item number 3 under the regular agenda. Is to request approval to purchase 12 refurbished Sigma Spectra IV pumps to be used in patient care on our ambulance in the amount of $26,760 to be paid from the Haywood Healthcare Foundation grant. We have Emergency Services Deputy Director Travis Donaldson here. Welcome, Travis.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. What I've got before you today is the second part of the Haywood County Healthcare Foundation grant that we received for IV pumps and ventilators. We purchased the ventilators earlier on in the year, and unfortunately, due to COVID, are just now getting to the pumps coming in. This is for 12 refurbished Sigma Spectrum IV pumps. These are the same pumps that the hospital uses. It'll help in transitioning care from the hospital to our ambulance crews and vice versa if we're hauling somebody in that has to be on the drip. A medication that gives us the capability of making that handoff to the patient a little bit easier. Currently, we don't have IV pumps. There are medications that we carry on the ambulances that are much better being maintained by machine as far as the actual dosage that the patient's receiving, and it improves our quality care for the patients that we're providing here in the county. Included in this is a preventive maintenance program that'll last for 5 years, servicing these units. Coming from the Healthcare Foundation grant, there were also 3 quotes that were obtained as part of this. The only one that actually references the preventive maintenance program was the one from Willow Medical in Holly Springs, North Carolina. So requesting approval for $26,760 for the purchase of the IV pumps.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Travis?
Travis, do we have these pumps on the ambulances now?
No, it will be an increase in service. We do not have any right now.
Appreciate the foundation doing that. That's great.
I guess the other question I had, I know these are refurbished. I assume the refurbished are okay.
Yes, sir. The company that we're looking at getting those from, they are refurbished. You cannot buy these brand new. They're an older model, but do come with a warranty as well as the biomedical agreement for the service for the next 5 years. A pump that is comparable is about twice the amount of money as compared to the refurbished units. We wouldn't actually be able to place them on all the trucks and have any kind of spares if we had actually went with a different pump.
As Commissioner Inslee said, that's nice that we can use that foundation grant to pay for those. So.
Is there any other questions? Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the purchase of 12 refurbished Sigma Spectrum IV pumps to be used in patient care on ambulances in the amount of $26,760 to be paid from the Haywood Healthcare Foundation grant.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, the next is to request approval of the budget amendment for public safety in the amount of, for EMS, $26,925 to appropriate the balance of the Haywood Healthcare Foundation grant to go toward the purchase of 12 IV pumps and a 5-year service contract for the pumps, and that's under attachment 7. Go ahead, Travis. Do you need to comment on that, or is that the same?
That's the same.
Okay. Okay, does anybody have any questions about that? For Julie, maybe?
What's the discrepancy there on the?
I think that's just the balance. Is that right?
Yes, there was a slight difference in what was the balance on the grant versus the cost of the pumps. It was a couple $100 difference there.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the budget amendment for the for EMS, $26,925 to appropriate the balance of the Haywood Healthcare Foundation grant to go towards the purchase of 12 IV pumps and a 5-year service contract for the pumps. So I'll entertain that motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, next is to request approval of a resolution to purchase a replacement ambulance from a piggyback exception to competitive bidding process from Precision Rescue Vehicles in the amount of $167,916 to be paid by $150,487 from insurance proceeds and $10,429 from the fiscal year 2019-2020 budgeted funds. Travis, you want to talk about that?
Okay. I've got both the resolution for the piggyback exception. If you'd like me to read that one, read the actual exception first, the resolution.
Is it very long? I'm sorry.
It's a page. No worries.
Okay.
What this is the replacement of an ambulance that was wrecked back in the earlier part of the year on an icy road, slid backwards, damaged the box, actually did structural damage. So this is the replacement of that unit through insurance processes and going back and forth. The unit was totaled out. So currently, Precision Rescue Vehicles has a unit that is in their production line that they had slated to be a demo unit that we're looking at purchasing through this resolution, as well as y'all's approval for the purchase. So I'll go ahead and read the resolution now. And whereas North Carolina General Statute 143-129 details the procedure for letting of public contracts, and North Carolina General Statutes 143-129G identifies exceptions to those procedures as they relate to waiver of bidding for previously bid contracts by local government within the past 12 months. After having completed a public formal bidding process, and whereas after soliciting competitive bids for the purchase of one ambulance remount for emergency medical services, the Newberry County, South Carolina Board of Commissioners approved an award to Precision Rescue Vehicles on October 30th, 2019. Whereas Haywood County Emergency Medical Services would like to purchase an ambulance remount on new chassis from Precision Rescue Vehicles at a cost of $167,916, which is less than the amount paid by Newberry County. And whereas an electronic notice was placed on the Haywood County website at least 10 days before this was brought to the Haywood County Board of Commissioners, summarizing the contents of this resolution per North Carolina General Statute 143-129G. And whereas Precision Rescue Vehicles agrees to sell one ambulance remount to Haywood County Emergency Medical Services for less than the bid amount from the October 30th, 2019 contract with Newberry County in South Carolina. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Haywood County Board of Commissioners in general session on June 15th, 2020 approves the following: to purchase one additional ambulance remount as permitted under North Carolina General Statute 143-129G from Precision Rescues Vehicles in the amount of $167,916.
Okay. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion that we approve the resolution to purchase a replacement ambulance from a piggyback exception to competitive bidding process from Precision Rescue Vehicles in the amount of $167,916 to be paid by $157,487 from insurance proceeds and $10,429 from fiscal year 1920 budgeted funds. So I'll entertain that motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is anyone opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, thank you, Travis.
Okay. And I guess the second part to that is actually approving the purchase as well. Did we cover that, Tracy? Yeah, all right, making sure we're good.
Great. So that handles the budget amendment, Julie, right? That handles that handles the budget. This resolution handles the budget amendment for that? Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Okay, thanks, Travis. Okay, our fifth item of the regular agenda is to request approval of an order to close and abandon an unnamed, unopened paper street located adjacent to 6565 Old Clyde Road in Canton, North Carolina, and 87 Low Street in Canton as required by North Carolina General Statute 153A 241. We have Frank, go ahead.
We had a public hearing on this at which no one appeared at the last meeting. This is a 40-foot long by 20-foot wide part of these people's backyard. Now we'll close their former paper street.
Okay. Okay, so I'll request, does anybody have any questions about any of that?
Frank, whose land does it become? Half and half?
Property becomes, by state law, becomes the two adjoiners are 20 feet apart. The two adjoiners' boundary lines snap to meet in the middle of the old, now abandoned roadway. So each property, adjacent property owner gets 10 feet of fee simple ownership of the property. Previously, that 20-foot strip was in the name of the original developer from 1932.
Is that something that will be recorded at the Register of Deeds and passed by land records?
Exactly. This resolution acts as a conveyance, a monument of title for the transfer of the property back to the adjoining property owners.
Okay.
I wish that we could do a lot more of these arcane real estate transactions as part of county government, but this is the only one I've ever found so far.
I've got one I think we're going to do.
Okay,
next.
well, see,
I'll
we'll
bring
do
it
another.
to you.
That would be great.
Is that one in Bethel?
Yeah, that's that one in Bethel.
Mm-hmm. I think we should be able to do that. Well, you still own the thing, for crying out loud.
I know.
With two lawyers and a surveyor, we ought to do more of these. I just don't know why we don't.
I agree. Okay. Need people to pay taxes on those things. Okay, so I'll request approval of the order to close and abandon an unnamed, unopened street located adjacent to 6565 Old Clyde Road and 87 Low Street in Canton as required by the North Carolina General Statute 153A-241.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Thank you. Okay, the sixth item of the regular agenda is to request approval of a lease agreement renewal for the office space of the Soil and Water Conservation District located at the Haywood County Agricultural Services Center at 589 Raccoon Road, Waynesville, North Carolina, to the North Carolina Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. And we have Bryant to talk. Hey, Bryant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is simply another 3-year renewal of a lease that's expiring at the end of this month.
Okay.
We get $178.75 a month, works out to $2,145 a year. It's just a renewal of the existing lease.
How much was it a month, did you say?
$178.75.
Okay. Okay, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the lease agreement renewal.
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Okay, anyone opposed? It's unanimous. The seventh and final item of the regular agenda is to request approval of an agreement between Haywood County and the Haywood County Healthcare Foundation outlining how Haywood County Healthcare Foundation will pay to the county the debt payments to be used solely for the construction and equipment of a health and human services related instructional buildings program. This is the nursing facility we talked about earlier tonight. Go ahead, Brian.
Correct. This is related to the public hearing that you're called for on the July 20th meeting. This is just the framework for the relationship between the Health Foundation and the county on who's going to pay the debt. This document's necessary for the LGC, and I think it helps the college as they send it on up to the state as well.
Anybody having questions on that one? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the agreement that I just read.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, we have no appointments and we have no closed session. Does anyone have any other business further for the board tonight?
Just these tough ladies here who toughed out our meeting and stayed until the end. So.
Yeah, good job.
See all the excitement we have?
Yeah. We had We had a full room of socially distanced, probably to our capacity. I think we need to put some chairs in the balcony or something, but tonight. And so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 people left. And we have our 2 deputies and our reporter from the Mountaineers. So appreciate y'all staying for that. And now you know what we have to do every time. Okay. All right. So is there any other?
You know, one comment in closing, I heard Commissioner Kirkpatrick comment about how he didn't have any answers for some of these tough questions. Well, I don't know that any of us do. And I did a little research on this, and of course, I didn't say anything earlier. But you know, Jesus even said that the poor you will always have with you. And a lot of our faith-based communities picking up a slack. And even in the Old Testament, I do a lot of Bible studying. The Israelites were told not to harvest the outside areas of their field. Said, let the poor come in and get it. And they said to take care of their own people. And I heard comments here today about people coming in from other places. And there's some truth to that. But you know, the standard is we should take care of our own people. And we should make provisions for that. I don't know how. I even heard some of these people here say that they're not against helping people. You know, they just want their communities, you know, back to normal. But we are going to continually have the poor with us. Jesus didn't have any answers for that. So Commissioner Kirkpatrick, the rest of us, we shouldn't feel bad about not being able to wave a magic wand and say, we've got the answer. We shouldn't feel bad about that. But the solution is, you know, we do need to keep in mind that that's going to be continually with us. There are going to be people that can't function. There's going to be people that, for various reasons, mental health, handicap, for whatever reason, there's going to be people that's not going to be able to function in life. And I know churches and faith-based places, they've done a good job about helping these people. They need help. And any allusion to us, I heard some comments that maybe we're cold-hearted and mean, and I know a lot of those folks have left, but, you know, we did help those people. We have helped those people. We've extended grace and mercy and a time frame to enable these folks to be extended a little longer to receive help. We did that, and we are not cold-hearted. We have helped. Some of those folks said we hadn't. All right? Maybe I took it wrong. But we have helped, and we've tried to do a few things. And again, I wish we had all the answers, but we don't.
Yeah, I will say that, you know, I donate to Open Door, Pathways. I've donated time and finances, and I've started on Haywood Christian Ministry Board, and there is a huge need in the community for these services. And unfortunately, a lot of our nonprofits during this time of COVID, their thrift stores, which is their main source of income, were not able to operate. And so I would encourage everyone in the community to maybe consider giving a donation to some of the nonprofits in our county that do this work, because they haven't been able to generate income where they have been able to generate income to serve the people. And I know that even though they haven't, they're still doing a pretty decent job of helping the folks out there. And so, you know, we do help. And I'm always amazed at how many people do help our community. And it's amazing, really, when you look at it. So. Does anybody else have anything further? Okay. Well, you have to come up here. I'll let you say one thing. How's that? Since you've been here. Good things come to those that wait.
I mean, the homeless kind of hits home to me, because my father chose to be homeless in Buncombe County. And we went together as family to get him off the street, because we didn't want him living, you know, on the streets of Asheville. But that being said, you know, that my heart goes out to those people, because there is something going on, whether it be mental addiction, you know, addictive personality, what have you. But there again, you know, when I was young, growing up, you knew who the homeless people were, or say the street people, or Bill White Shoes right walking the street, you know. You knew who they were. You don't this day and time, and it does. It scares me. I mean, I can be out in my yard and somebody be walking down my street, and I don't know it from a hill of beans, you know. And, you know, Jesus did get out and walk among the sinners and the people. But, you know, some of these people that have come in here are not grateful for what has been given to them. And it just kills me to come through Frog Level and see like they've had a food fight with food. Apples, orange, bananas, whatever, just strewed all over the street. And, you know, that's so ungrateful. I know I said more, but thank you all for what you do. You're appreciated, and we all pull together, we can do something.
Right, that's right.
But if we pull apart, we fail.
Thank you for coming tonight. Okay, is anything else anybody got? Yeah, I'll entertain a motion, we adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Okay, we're adjourned, and everybody stay safe out there.